All right. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone. Good afternoon. How's it going? We hope you guys are in a very great conditions so that you guys could listen carefully to our presentation today, because the main topic that we are going to present in this opportunity is lesson plan, and of course in this context is for young learners. Before we go, let me introduce our member group first. There is Dika Ananda, uh, that is sick right now. Let's hope that she will get well soon. And then there is Ferdi Satria, and then Nahal Hadid, Salma Samardo Habibah, Putri Permatasari, and Zahra Dwi Amrani. Okay, the first material will be presented by Putri. The time is yours, Putri.
Okay, thank you, Nahang. So here I will explain about the. Can you move the slide? Contextualize instruction. Can you move the slide? Okay. An effective contextual EYL class involves the first is creating opportunities to use English with a meaningful purpose. The second is building on the knowledge and skill learned through the first language, linking the EYL class with home, community, and local environment, organizing instruction around the myths that relate to children experience at home and in the other classes. The third is providing a variety of ways to make English comprehensible, for example, through action, gestures, games, pictures, and object, keeping the language level of the activity in a comprehensible level just above their current proficiency level. And the fourth is focusing children's attention on the game, song, story, or other activity rather than directly on the language, organizing the classroom to facilitate communication among the children. And the last is developing classroom routine to keep communication in English, for example, at key point in the lesson, such as beginning the closer, moving from one activity to another, giving direction, ending the class. Uh, and then there is thematic instruction. Can you move the slide? Can you move the slide? Yeah. So, thematic instruction is the organization of the curriculum around macro themes. Thematic instruction integrates basic disciplines like reading, math, and science with the exploration of the broad subjects such as communities, can forest, river, and then basing the use of the energy and so on. And there is basic elements. Thematic instruction is based on the idea that people acquire knowledge based on learning in the context of the coherent world, and when they can connect while they are learning to the real world. So I will give to the moderator.
All right, thank you, Putri, for your great explanation. And the next material will be presented or explained by Zahra Dwi. Zahra, the time is yours.
Okay, thank you for your opportunity. So here I will explain about planning thematics units. Wait a second. Okay, can you next slide? So, for young learners with short attention spans, it may be best to 2 weeks of instruction, but it is always appropriate to return these themes and tooling letter units and themes to ones that you have previously taught. And can you next? So here are 6 steps towards thematic units. The first is selecting a theme or select an appropriate text and identity. The themes in the text. Can you next slide, please? So in selecting a theme, there are two major ways of selecting themes for your classes. They are equally effective theme first is identifying a theme that is either in the textbooks or that you want to use based on your knowledge. As you can see here, there are pictures that can you consider when you will conducting or selecting a theme. There are reading, writing, activities, listening, speaking activities, art, music, science, social studies, math, physical education, and other. Okay, next. The second is about identify the language focus or vocabulary and grammar. As you can see, you can consider a theme, not the following. There are three. Here are new vocabulary, vocabulary to review, and grammar patterns. So keep the language at the level of the children. This may mean that you will need to simplify the grammar in some of the texts you plan to use. It will certainly mean that you will need to pre-teach some vocabulary and also the target grammatical structure as well as a review grammar and vocabulary needed to understand the activities on the text. Next slide, number 3. Number 3 is about identify content objectives or link to other content areas. So in here, the more you can link what the children are learning in English to what they are learning in their other subjects, the deeper their learning will be, but in English and in their other subjects. Those links might be to mathematics, science, social studies, art, music, or physical education. Some will come to you naturally as you consider the theme or analyze the text that is basic for the theme. And then number 4 is about identify learning strategies or critical thinking skills. And here, a major criticisms of many language classes is that they focus so much on repetition of a language that they are ignore the possibility of building and learning strategies needed in any academic class. Strategies such as previewing or predicting what something is going to be about, perhaps from a picture or title, listening or reading for a main idea, classifying information, guessing the meaning of word from the context, sounding out a word to pronounce it and figure out its meaning, taking notes, and even visualizing a situation. Number 5 is develop activities. In develop activities, we will spending more time on this later in this chapter. But at this point, we need to remember that a unit should have activities that provide lots of practice. The unit should also provide opportunities for children to apply what they have learned. Perhaps in developing projects such as a poster or a collage, giving a brief oral summary with the help of pictures or sentence starters, or writing a brief email about what they are done. At least one of these activity at the end of the unit should allow you to evaluate students' progress in the meeting of unit objective. And the last is about sequence the activities. In sequence the activities, you will want to consider the following. First, engaging learners in receptive tasks before projects. Projective tasks, presenting language, vocabulary, and grammar before asking students to practice. And also using controlled practice activities before more independent activities. Connecting one activities to the next, sequencing the content to recycle language and ordering the task to mirror the real life application of the task. So it's enough from me. I will give it back to moderator. Thank you.
All right, thanks a lot, Zahra, for your great presentation. For the next point will be explained by myself. It is about text first unit planning. Next slide, please. Okay, first of all, let's talk about long-term planning. In the previous explanation, the importance of contextualizing instruction and developing unit plans that integrate activities for several classes is already explained. But it is also important to do long-term planning. It may seem obvious that a good English young learner class is carefully planned not only for daily lessons and weekly or longer units, but also for the entire year. Even if you have a textbook where much of the planning has been done for you, you will need to adapt the textbook based on your children's experiences and your teaching context. Next slide, please. Now let's talk about the planning for the term or year. There are 2 points that we highlight. The first is your textbooks actually can provide a basic plan for your school term or year, but you may want to look at the calendar and think about what would be most appropriate at various times of the year, such as special holidays or festivals, or even international sport events such as World Cup or the Olympics, because this or those special events will be good to align with your unit. Take out the calendar and then look closely at the themes in the textbook listed. And the second point, you may also want to talk with other teachers in the school to find out what the children will be doing in their other subjects, so that we could build units or add lessons to the textbooks that reflect or mirror these other subjects. If there are standards related to English teaching that must be addressed, you will also want to review this and make sure the students are being helped to meet the standard for students at their language level and age. Okay, that's all that I could describe, and the next point will be presented by Salma Sumruto. Salma, the time is yours.
All right, thank you, moderator, for hosting the meeting. Uh, Now I will explain about daily lesson planning. Next slide, please. Okay, why we should prepare the lesson plan? Because most administrators will require you or the teachers to prepare a lesson plan. It is something that they can show parents to help them understand what is being taught in the language class and to reassure them that their child's teacher is well prepared. It is also something that a substitute teacher can use if you or the teacher are sick or not available to teach your class. Next slide, please. And here there are some benefits of lesson plan. First is it builds confidence. You know where you are going and how are going together. It's also assures your students that you know what they will be doing. It gives them confidence in you and in the structure of the class. Second is it helps you prepare for the class. You know what the materials you need to how long will you need for each activity. And third is it provides you with a guide during the class as you move from one activity to another, from controlled to free activities. And four is it requires you to have specific objectives for the class and guides you in ensuring that these objectives are met. And five, it helps you to see if you have provide different activities for different learning styles like auditory, visual, audio visual, kinesthetic, and etc. And it provides the teacher with option if you find that your initial plans it's not working. And the last is it gives some things to reflect on the for future planning. You can make notes of a change you would make the next time you teach the lesson. Okay, next slide, please. And here the objective of lesson. First is writing objectives. Objectives are the most important part of the lesson plan since they state the purpose of the lesson and what students are expected to learn from the lesson. It is important to have objectives that address both content and language learning. It is also a good idea to include objectives that relate to academic skills or what are often referred to as learning strategies. And objectives should be measurable. It is you should be able to determine if the students have met an objective or are in the process of meeting it, and refer what the students should be able to do by the end of the lesson. And the second is choosing activities after setting objectives. You will need to plan activities to help children achieve them. Sometimes you will think of activities before setting objectives, but the activities then need to be tailored to your specific objectives. Brainstorm as many activities as you can, beginning with those that are included in your students' textbooks, workbooks, or teacher's manual. And also look for the other materials you have access to, and think about others that your student might find engaging. Will be using on the same them for several classes, so activities that may not fit one lesson may be perfect for another. And the last is organizing activities after brainstorming activities to help children achieve the objectives. You will need to organize this into a sequence. In general, for children, you will want to begin with listening and speaking activities, and then move to reading and writing. The activities should be organized to fit the following stage in your lesson plan, such as warm-up activities, presentation activities, practice activities, and application activities. Warm-up will warm up will want to provide activities that help build learner engagement, set the direction for the unit or lesson, and link the day's lesson with previous lessons activities that warm up the class. Warm up help to first is melihat sejauh mana pemahaman peserta didik terhadap materi dan bahasa, sehingga guru tahu topik apa yang perlu diajarkan kepada peserta didik tersebut. Yang kedua, menciptakan minat dan kegembiraan pada siswa. Ini akan membuat siswa merasa tertarik dan merasa penasaran dengan materi yang akan dibahas, dan seterusnya. And next is presentation activities. In the presentation stage of the lesson, the teachers present the relevant vocabulary and language structures in a meaningful context, usually by having the students listen to or listen to a story or a song, and determining if the students have understood that input. The focus in this stage is providing the students with a lot repeat input, and then teaching the target language structures and vocabulary they will need to use that language in speaking and writing, as well as additional practice in listening and reading in the practice stage. And the last is practice activities during the practice activities. During this stage in the lesson, students need opportunities to practice using the topic and the new language in predictable ways, beginning with being provided with a great deal of support to those in which they take on more of responsibility of providing the appropriate responses and using the language more meaningful. The activities can be post-listening or post-reading activities that include speaking and writing. You will find lots of suggest activities in the student workbook or teacher's edition. That's all for me. I will give it back to the moderator. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Salma Samrata Habibah, for your great explanation. And then the next point will be explained or described by Ferdi Satria. Okay, Ferdi, the time is yours.
All right, thank you, moderator. Is my voice clear? All right,
Yes, it is clear.
okay. So here I will give you a sample lesson. It's about meet and greet. So meet and greet is one of effective and fun lesson plan for young learners. The example of meet and greet using the following dialogue. Lisa and Rosa run into John on the street. Lisa, hi John, how are you? Well, waving hand. John, hi Lisa, waving hand again. I'm fine. How about you, Lisa? I'm good. This is my friend Rosa. Rosa. Hi, I'm Rosa. Shake hand with John. And John, nice to meet you. Shake hand with Rosa. Rosa, nice to meet you too. So meet and listen is very useful to emphasize listening and speaking ability of young learners. On top of that, the aim of this lesson is that students would be able to be a great friend, introduce new friend, and meet a new friend. All right. Next is warm-up activities. The first topic and then review our structure and then go to the pre-teach. So that's the first point is capture the attention. So in this stage, we ask students to show how they greet a friend and ask them if they know how to greet with their cultures. It's depending whether is it appropriate or not. And then creating interesting topic. So introducing the topic can stimulate students. So we as a teacher tell students what they will learn and how to greet a friend in English using English appropriate for everyday life. And then the next stage is review now. So it's like stimulate students if they still remember what they did in last week. And then let's go to the pre-teach is we as a teacher like creative, for example using create a circle or round. Jadi buat kayak semacam lingkaran gitu murid-muridnya. Nah kemudian the teachers tune to the person on the left or right that tells this is my friend with filling name. For example, this is my friend Adlan. So let the students in the next of Adlan says, oh, hi Adlan, nice to meet you. So it can stimulate students to think that how to express themselves. Okay, next is we move into practice activities. It's the first is controlled activities, and the second is independent practice, and the last is cross-cultural application. Okay, so the first is controlled activities. It's like we teachers should control the practice and controlling them and watching them is it right or not. For example, we use movie activity. So we play a movie that there is two people or more that's doing conversation with the others. And the teacher giving a role and jadi membuat dulu kelompok kepada si muridnya, kemudian mereka disuruh untuk role play begitu. Jadi bagaimana dia menyapa atau salam dengan temannya menggunakan ekspresi-ekspresi yang sudah ditentukan oleh guru tersebut. Kemudian, and then independent practice. So it's like let students to present their knowledge and performance in the front of class to see if the students is understandable enough or not. So the teacher can know the students. Jadi di mana salahnya students ini atau sudahkah benar students ini. Jadi